Of St. Petersburg College Board of Trustees. Sorry for the late start. Everybody was talking and visiting, and that was nice to hear. So apologize, we're a few minutes late getting started. But if you could please rise for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Dear Lord, thank you for this time that we have to come together. Thank you for this opportunity to use our collective wisdom to lead the college, the students, the administrators. Please put your blessings on each and every one of us as we reach out to make the community better. In this time of division and strife in politics, we hope that you guide our leaders and us through the election season, and please be present on our campuses and keep our students and faculty and administration safe. In your name, who I pray, amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So we have some recognitions this morning, and I'd like to recognize in our gallery today, we have Senator Jeff Brandis. Thank you for being here. I don't know, Senator Brandis, if you want to say anything or not. Nope. We appreciate you being here and always your support of the college and what we're doing. So thank you so much. So with that, I don't know, do we have any? No retirements today. Very good. So we'll move on to our board and president comments, and I'll start with Trustee Kidwell.
Wow. I'm glad to be here. I don't really have anything to add for the comments.
Very good. Trustee Bello?
I have nothing to add. Glad to be here. Good morning, everyone.
Trustee Sonnencypher?
Sure, I'll add something.
All right.
Good morning, everyone. I just wanted to take the time out to thank our foundation. We had a great meeting a few weeks ago. And, you know, the foundation as a whole does so much to support this college, especially as we move forward in times that are really a bit questionable as far as what our revenue stream looks like, what our enrollment looks like, and what some of these new workforce programs that we're trying to bring to St. Pete College will look like. But the foundation has helped support students who are in need through COVID, have helped support, as they always do, with scholarships as we start this new semester. And they were able to get a fire truck, a ladder truck from Largo Fire Rescue, which is really going to help as we move forward with the fire program, and we couldn't be more grateful for that. So I just wanted to take the time out. Also, I'd like to encourage the board, after our November board meeting, we'll be having a meeting with Graham Pelton and the foundation board to talk a little bit about what our next big fundraiser may look like for the college. It'll be the size and scope of which we have never seen before as we get ready for our 100-year anniversary here at the college. So I'm excited about it. There's a lot that we're going to be able to do to help as the Board of Trustees. And so I just want to make sure that we're all there and available. That's it.
Wonderful. Thank you, Trustee Sonnencypher. I just wanted to comment and thank especially our security staff. I know last week in the Midtown area there was an incident, and that was somewhat obviously real scary for our campus and our students there, and so thank you to the team at Midtown for your immediate efforts to keep everyone safe and work with the City of St. Pete in that situation. So I did want to recognize our security team and administration there on Midtown. So thank you so much. And I know it's been relatively quiet, but I say this every month since March, but in my comments, I just again want to say thank you to our faculty especially, and our technology team for the hard work that they've done to continue our virtual learning and our online St. Pete SPC programs that has just gone so well and so seamlessly. And even as the state considers additional reopenings, Dr. Williams and I were talking about how that might impact our class mix and our student body, and whether we would end up with more on classes. And I know that the deans are going through that analysis now and determining how many students may want to come back to campus and when is the appropriate time for them to come back to campus. And so just appreciate everyone's patience as it obviously evolves on a daily basis. So thank you for that. So Dr. Williams?
Thank you. Good morning, St. Pete College family. I'm so glad to see you all. I want to thank our board, because you guys have been taking my phone calls and all the things that are happening, and things are changing. Right now we're, facing 5 systems in the hurricanes and things of that nature coming forward along with COVID. And you've been very responsive and supportive, and I want to definitely thank you for that. There's so much that has happened since the last time we met. I want to say that the incident at Midtown was not on campus. It was across the street from the campus. So I want to make sure everybody knows that the incident did not occur on campus. And also to the foundation, we have the best, I think, relationship with the foundation ever. And I want to thank Jesse and his team, Katie, and also want to thank you, Nathan, for your work. ISPS is going very well. Bridget, you have been amazing. It has totally turned around, and the same with the Lipa Ratner Museum. And that's because you guys have been actively participating, and that has been very helpful, and we're starting to see the growth from that. Real quick, I always have something to share. The Midtown Technology Inclusion Enhancement program we talked about last month that we're trying to submit to the state early. We did meet with our student body at Midtown, and they have a letter, and they agreed to the project, which was requested by Trustee Gibbons. We also have a meeting set with the community leaders in that area to ensure that we're not impacting their programs that they're trying to start, and that ours is totally different with a different population on September 28th. So I just wanted to let you know we're moving forward on that. Trustee Gibbons asked about the 12 and 12 program, where we have the new initiative of students taking 12 credits in 12 weeks, which is very unique. He wanted to know the success rates. For our first time, it was 67%. As you know, our overall success rates are a little north of 77%. And so for the first time out, that's pretty good. Very proud of that happening at the Midtown campus. We're doing that again right now, and we look forward to improvements there. Many of you asked about graduation. You'll get this in writing as well, but we will have graduation for our spring and summer students October 10th. So you'll receive that. It'll be on 2 campuses. We were talking about having it outside in the parking lot at the Trop, but that did not work, and so we're going to have it on campus. The December graduation will be virtual. So we're working on that platform and getting that together. We're very proud of the work that Workforce has done. As you recall, Workforce in the past was upside down in its budget. There were concerns. That's gone. We have really made a huge impact in our community. We just started our rapid credentialing scholarship program, where students can take short-term programs for free to upskill and reskill. We're also working with Google on some Google training that we're doing. We're also working with Duke Energy and Power Towns on what is it called, Michael? Line worker program. So with Workforce, we're moving forward. Yesterday, we had a chance to present to the city of St. Petersburg on a St. Pete Works grant. I don't know if we're the finalists, but we're still in the game. We'll see if we receive that as well. But the other thing that I'm really proud of is that the Department of Education listed St. Petersburg College in its news. We were on Bay News 9 as well for our workforce training and the programs that we are doing. And so we're getting the right attention for the right reason to support our community. Hats off to the workforce team, our grants office, our faculty, and those involved. Finally, we have our impact annual report to show what we did this year. the initiatives, how we impacted the community financially through economic mobility, as well as the programs and things that we have offered. I'm very proud of this document as SPC continues to move us forward in this county to make sure that people have what they need to be successful and to thrive. That's my report.
Thank you so much. And just to piggyback on Dr. Williams' report with respect to graduation for the trustees, there is a role for each of us to play at graduation, so be sure to look out for Rebecca's email because we'll be asking for participation from the trustees as well. So I didn't want it to seem like, since it was different, that we wouldn't be there
no, we
to
need you guys.
cheer on and support
The
and
students want to see
celebrate.
you.
So.
Correct.
With that, is there any public comment? We received any cards? Even if we haven't received cards, is there anyone who wishes to comment? Very good. Then moving on to the review and approval of the minutes, which were emailed out to the board by Ms. Turner last week. Were there any changes, modifications, additions?
I move for approval of last month's minutes.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay? Okay, Ms. Gardner.
Good morning. I do not have a report this morning.
Thank you. And now with our strategic focus, and Dr. Davis.
Good morning. Good morning, President Williams, Madam Chair, and board members. I think I got this here. All right. Both Dr. Vitito and I are pretty excited here to kind of give you guys an advising spotlight update on how we onboard our first time in college students here at St. Petersburg College. The process is pretty much simple. The students apply, they get an advisor, and then they begin to receive all the documentations and informations that they need. We have several different checklists. Basically, the students receive checklists and the advisors receive a checklist, and they go through this process from soup to nuts. This is particularly important because a lot of our advisors are doing very, very good work here. And I say this because recently the numbers from app to enrollee are pretty high. Overall, on each site, depending on the week, they can go as high as 75% conversion rate. And that's because we're following this process and we're making sure that all of our students are understanding what they need to do to move to the next steps. We work on building relationships, so it's important that we contact these students. We have moved from a transactional relationship to a relational relationship with our students. And this happens basically during walk-ins, appointments, and during virtual advising, which, by the way, is doing fantastic. The virtual advising numbers are sort of through the roof. When we look at what we talk about with these students, with the relationship, we talk about the career conversations, we talk about the academic pathways, the learning plans, and all of those are important when we're sort of trying to figure out what is it that they need to do on their next steps. Which brings me to my next point, which is that career conversation. We basically categorize each student based on confidence level, red, yellow, and green, and we ask them the hard questions, the career questions, all of the questions that they need to understand. And all of this is done through a lot of the research that the college has done throughout the years, trying to figure out what is it that we need to do to service our students. And with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Vitito.
Sorry, Madam Chair. Could I ask one quick question? What is typically how many students that we speak to are super confident, unsure, and then extremely unsure? Is there like a breakdown as they come to us?
We do have a breakdown. We do keep those records. I'd probably have to get back with you on that
Okay.
one. Dr. Vitito has a little bit of those numbers as to what we've done in the past, these semesters during COVID. So we can get that back to you as we progress.
Just curious. Thank you.
Cipher, I do want to say this is so important because if a student does not know why they're here
Right.
and what credential it is they're here to get, they're sure to not finish.
Absolutely.
Or take a lot of different classes that they don't need. So this area is critical. And from my experience, the majority of them start red or yellow. And even some who feel they're yellow, they'll revert back to red. And we do a lot of work with them on testing, giving them different surveys to take to really help them figure out what areas they're interested in. Because we're finding that those students who are less successful, a lot of it also is they don't know why they're here. And so this is very critical.
Right, they're floating instead of moving forward in a certain direction.
When you were a young person coming in, did you really know exactly this is what I want to do, this is when I want to do it, and how? We've had students say, I want to be a nurse, until they spend time and understand nurses have to touch people, and they're like, I don't want to do that. So this is a very critical piece here,
Right.
and the advisors work to get them all to agree. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Dr. Davis talked about relationships and the importance of moving from a transactional model to a relational model. And it's kind of hard to have a relationship with a random group of people. So one of the first things that happens to students when they apply is we assign them an advisor. And that's dependent on what sort of general career they have identified. So they may have said, I'm interested in some type of health occupation, and maybe they know specifically and maybe they don't. On my campus, if they said they were interested in health, they would be assigned to Karen Somerville, who has a lot of background in that area, knows those programs very well, knows all the ins and outs of transferring to other schools. If you tell them that you want to be a physician's assistant, she can tell you what courses you need to take if you're going to this school as opposed to that one, and so on. And so the relationship begins there with that particular advisor. There's a lot of work to be done. At that point, students have to submit high school transcripts. Those transcripts have to be evaluated. Courses selected based on what previous work they've done or haven't done. They have to address the financial aid issue. And oftentimes there are documents that they need to submit to support their requests and that kind of thing. And as Dr. Davis mentioned, the all-important career conversation. And that's an area where the student might be directed to go to the Bureau of Labor Statistics to do a little research. They might do some personality inventories, interest inventories, that kind of thing, to try to establish where they are. That initial meeting with the advisor could take as long as 45 minutes. And then there are subsequent meetings along the way to get them from the place where they've applied to actually registered and in the appropriate classes for their interest. The graphic in the lower right-hand corner of this slide is attempting to illustrate that process, where initially the advisor, the large A, takes on most of the responsibility, and the student, the S, is a little bit smaller. But over time, that changes to the point where the advisor is less responsible and the student is more responsible for their academic career. The process is an educational process, and one of the more or less formal pieces of that is what we refer to as our Smart Start orientation. And this is a class that's taught or facilitated by advisors themselves, along with all the other things that they're trying to do. And it includes a lot of things that help students be successful, things that you might take for granted, like how do you drop or add a class? And more importantly than the mechanics of pushing the button on the computer and dropping that class, when should you drop that class? Some student might feel that they need to drop the class because they're afraid they might get a C. Some students might feel they should drop the class because they're afraid that they might not get a C. So it depends on your major and the program, what you're doing, those kind of things. Other things, how do you communicate with a faculty member? We want them to be able to ask questions, but there are ways of asking questions respectfully and efficiently and effectively. And so all those things are part of that. How do you deal with the technology of your classes, especially in this time where we have so many students taking online classes? How do you deal with my courses? How do you know what your academic standing is? So that's all part of that process to educate the student to take more control of their own academic career. And of course now we have this offered in 3 different formats: the traditional asynchronous online format, face-to-face, as well as what we call live online, which is what we commonly refer to as the Zoom classes. You ask a little bit about numbers there. we have a lot of numbers that we could share, but some that really seem important to me. You'll see there that 2,423 FTIC students in the fall of 2010 as of 2020, and that 80% of those interacted with an advisor between July 1 and August 17th. So that's a pretty heavy caseload for advisors. Those are students who take a lot of time. We do our best to market and encourage students to come in earlier, but honestly, the trend has been for them to come in later. I guess as a society, we're more inclined to try to do things at the last minute and think they should be done instantly. But in addition to that, those advisors also had 35,500 interactions with students overall during that same period. They were very, very busy people. And I think if we look at the success that we've enjoyed this year in terms of meeting our enrollment goals, I think it'd be very difficult not to credit the advisors with a significant part of that success. They made that change from essentially a face-to-face operation to online very quickly. And I think it's safe to say that we are not only as good as we were before, but I think we're better. We have more tools, we are more responsive, we're more efficient, we've done more training. We, at one point, had 30% more interactions with students this summer than we did the previous summer. And all that's been done while we're developing new technologies. As has been acknowledged earlier today, our technology staff supports all this. They not only keep things running, but they have to develop the new tools that we use, like our virtual advising center, where students can simply check into kind of a Zoom room, and some advisor will take them off to an individual advising session. That's been very powerful. The online appointment registration has been another one of those tools, where students can go online, set up an appointment with their advisor for a certain time, and they can either show up physically or they can show up in a virtual room for their advising. Truly, the advisors, I think, have been, along with our academic staff, our deans and teachers, have been heroes and have really overcome a lot of obstacles to be successful for this fall. They work closely with the marketing team. Marketing has been, our effective tool to reach out to these students and let them know, here's where you have to go to find this, or here's where you have to go to do this. So it's been a great effort, and I'm very, very proud of our team. Oops. I do want to let you know that the case management program will be forthcoming in another presentation. One of the parts of this educating students is that's really important is to get them to the point where it doesn't take 2 or 3 hours to work with them every time they go to register. If we had to do that, we couldn't do case management. We have to be able to help those students who, for whatever reason, have academic problems or personal problems that are barriers to success. And that's part of this onboarding process, from application to registration, is educating them to take control of their own education and enabling us to be able to work with those students who are still having problems. Any questions I can answer?
Thank you so much, Dr. Bitetto. Any
Thank you.
questions? That was a great overview with the information. Thank you. We appreciate that. I did have a question about non-first time in college students, and do they go through the same program, or is there a different path?
They do have a different path. Things like Smart Start are available to anyone and probably pretty useful even if you've been here before. But no, we're not requiring the same kinds of efforts for students who are returning.
Okay.
I do think that we've done some work for students who are returning from probation or in a different standing, so that we can help them not make the same mistake their second go round.
Good. Well, I was also just thinking about returning students.
Yeah.
They may not be first time in college,
Yeah.
but perhaps it's been 20 years since they were in college, and
They would benefit from that.
yeah, they stood in line and pulled cards for class.
They would benefit from that.
Very good, thank you. I know we do have an update from Ms. But she's not until 10,
10
right?
o'clock, so
Okay,
we can
so we
keep
can keep
going.
moving forward, and we'll come back to our strategic planning update, because we're doing that via virtually, right?
She will be calling in.
Right, okay. Very good. So with that, welcome, Mr. Gibbons. And moving on to the consent agenda, there is no old business on the consent agenda. So do we have any questions about the new business that was included in the package? Any comments, questions, concerns? Again, amazing job by Jesse and Katie with all these grants that were coming in.
Yeah.
I love seeing that every month. Happy to entertain a motion by any of my colleagues.
Madam Chair, I move that we take everything on the consent agenda for approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good. Thank you. Informational reports. Not to put you on the spot, but I know that both Leeper Ratner and ISPS have been hosting and are hosting in the next couple months some programs specific to some equality issues and the elections, and I didn't know if either one of you wanted to speak on anything that's forthcoming. Again, totally putting you on the spot, but now we're spending some 30 minutes trying to fill the time before Madeline calls in.
The last ISPS board meeting fell on my wedding anniversary, so I was not there.
Yes. Congratulations.
Thank you. I do know that we have some exciting programs coming up that are obviously relevant and timely and topical, but I'm not able to speak on anything specifically, having missed that meeting.
Yeah, no problem.
Same. The fourth quarter meeting will be in November, I think, for
Great.
Leeper Ratner. So I will be attending, and they have been virtual. So, but I think we're surviving, and I hope to have lunch with Dr. Wilkins soon.
Be great. Are there any other questions or comments about the informational reports from our DSOs? I think Trustee Stone-Cipher already gave us a little feedback about
I
that.
don't know if this has been announced or not, but I'm lucky to be on the press release list for St. Petersburg College.
Yes.
I just got an email a few minutes ago, so if we're trying to fill time, I can share it with you guys.
Please.
It says that U.S. News and World Report ranked SPC third among the 28 colleges in the Florida college system, according to their
Wonderful.
2021 Best
Yay.
Colleges study.
Congratulations.
It's awesome.
That's
That is.
amazing. Good job, everyone. Very proud of you and the work that we've done. We just have to keep pushing forward.
See, we've done such a good job streamlining our meetings, and now instead of
We
being here
have.
till 11, we're waiting to fill 20 minutes
But
so we
I-
can
I-
have our last report.
But I do have some things I can
That would be great.
share. First, I do want to say that with the health insurance, it looks like our numbers are going to come even a little lower than what was presented to the board on the expense for the employees, which I'm very, very proud of. We'll be sending out information to the employees about the plan, the 3 options that they have. And Trustee Gibbons, you challenged me on a few things in regards to the supplemental insurance. So here's the proposal. We have 1 more year on the current supplemental insurance that we have, but that would not keep us from offering other opportunities for employees to choose from. They could stick with what we have for the next year or choose from the others. So we're working on that from our conversation. So I'm real proud about that work. It'll give them some options. So we're looking at that. The other thing on COVID, we continue to keep you posted on where we are with any of our COVID cases. And we'll continue to inform the impacted faculty and staff as that goes along. We're not having as many of the challenges as the residential universities are having because our students are basically car class car, or they're clicking online. So we don't have that issue. Our hurricane preparation, we are on point. Our team has been working on this for a couple of months, so we're not off kilter. Actually, when I spoke with Bill Gray, he said we're the strongest we've ever been in preparation for our hurricane season and for any issues that we may incur. I don't know if you recall, when I first became president, within 3 months we had our hurricane, and from that we learned so much about what we weren't prepared on and what we needed to change. We've addressed those issues. Nathan, you stole my idea on the fundraising campaign. I'm very excited that in 2027, SPC will be 100 years old. We will have served this community for 100 years, and that is a big deal. And we're still going strong. And so the foundation is going to be working, the foundation board and our board will be working together on a strategy for a major campaign, and what that would look like and how we can serve and be ready for our next 100 years. In November, Capital City will be joining the board to talk about the legislative environment and our next steps on our legislative ask. They will be sharing some ideas of what we think we should do. Senator Brandis and I spoke earlier today about where we are legislatively and will there be a special session. And at this point, a special session has not been scheduled. It may be reviewed or considered later in November. Did I get that right, Senator Brandis? For us moving forward. So for the next couple of weeks, my focus will be on the strategic plan. Madeline has met with the President's Cabinet for about 5 or 6 hours. She'll be sharing with you your results from the workshop. She shared that with us to guide us on our planning. And she'll be meeting with faculty, staff, and administrators and moving forward to students. So that in December we'll be able to bring you a strong plan that started with you and what you wanted us to focus on. So today she'll be sharing that information with you going forward.
Great.
President Williams, do we know what our retention rate is currently as we move through this kind of first full semester during COVID, with so many more classes online and with advisement going in a live online format for the most part? I'm curious if students are feeling connected still and if they're maintaining their enrollment as we kind of move further along into the fall semester.
I don't know the fall retention rate yet. We're in our 5th week, so I can get that data and bring it back. So Sabrina, do we know about the summer retention rate from when we had to make the change?
No, I can tell you the fall to spring. Sorry. You need to screen that way, ready? Good morning, everybody. So our fall to spring was about 65%, and remember that also takes into account that it might have many graduates. We have not pulled the rate for the summer or for the fall yet because we haven't gotten all the way through our 8-week 2 classes, and we don't like to look at that until we have everybody enrolled. We also are looking at the CARES Funding Act and looking at how those students who are affected by the CARES funding and whether or not they've re-enrolled, and those who withdrew, whether they've re-enrolled. So later this fall, we'll have some really good data to share with you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Gibbons?
Madam Chair, thank you. Madam President, I heard you when you talked about insurance. I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about that because the insurance issue is one of the ones that could put us out of business if we keep dumping too much money into it. And, forget parties aside, but I'm a free market capitalist, so I believe in choice. But once you start giving folks the options, then those programs that are working well believe me, the word will get around and those will rise to the top. And the more options we give our employees and other folks to spend their own money the way they want to, then the market will adjust itself, no matter where that is. I mean, you can ask Tommy about that. He can tell you more about it than any of us up here, and probably Nate, he's a student of the market. But what I mean is, it's just allow them to have as many options as they want. If Aflac wants to come, if Allstate, whoever, just give them the option, the employee the option of figuring out who they'd like to use as a supplemental insurance. And I bet you we'll see in 4 or 5 years that our costs will decrease because people will be much happier. They may spend a little bit more, but they also will be getting what they think is important. One of the things that I think would be important after looking at your initial reports that we got back from, I think it was Brown & Brown initially, when they were talking about there were catastrophic things that happened with 3 people and the insurance went way up, right? But if they had an option to have Aflac or somebody else, supplemental insurance, that probably would have stayed level because they would have had some other insurance product to pull from. And, you know, who knows if they're ever going to get cancer. God forbid, I hope nobody gets cancer. But if you do and you have those insurances, it helps offset some of the costs that we see. So I thank you for looking into that. But I'm a firm believer that as many options as we give the employees, I mean, this insurance issue is going to, I think, either going to make us or break us. We're going to figure it out, or we're going to be doing this 5 and 6 times. And I just think we need to, you know, wipe our hands of it from the standpoint that we are finding a good product to give to the employees and then give them good options along with that. So I'm glad that you looked at that.
Thank you, Trustee Givens. You know, one of the things that when we talked a lot about the supplemental and opportunities for people to choose. And I wanted to make sure in the audience, we're not talking about the regular health insurance, we're talking about the supplemental. So that's your long-term disability, your dental, vision, those type things, disability, that we're looking at ways to allow individuals to choose instead of the college saying, here, this is what we chose for you, especially since employees pay the supplemental cost. So they should have that chance to choose. But I definitely wanted to bring that forward as well.
Not to take too much time, because what we'll do is we'll just take a break and come back at
Okay.
10 a.m., but I did want 2 updates, just to let the board know that I've participated over the past 6 weeks in 2 different audit calls,
that's right.
one on behalf of the college and one on behalf of the collegiate high schools. So I wanted to bring you all up to date with that. There are a couple things that Ms. Hunt and her team are working through on the college audit that were a surprise and different, and we had a different reviewer, and so I think that I know that probably by next month, do you think we'll actually get the audit report? I don't mean to put you on the spot, and we haven't talked at all about it as a board, but I just wanted to be sure they knew it was happening.
No,
So.
as of this week, they actually reached out to us, so they sent our responses to the 2 possible findings to Tallahassee, and they're still kind of going back and forth between one of them that we came to a surprise to us, which is how we've operated in the last 16 years. And so it had to do with athletic scholarships. So we will see what their responses is, and hopefully we'll get something back in the next week or 2.
Great, thank you. So I did just want you all to know that I had participated in both of those meetings. And then secondly, we did not report on our enrollment numbers.
Oh, well,
Come on, Dr. Williams, how did we miss that?
I am so proud of the St. Pete College family, the everybody. I can't even name you all. We actually exceeded our budgeted goals, and I believe, Sabrina, yesterday we were 83.5% towards, 93.5% towards stretch goals. So we're like almost there, and our 8-week session is underway. So enrollment is still going in a positive direction. Very, very proud of that. And if you recall, enrollment is the one thing that we can try to work on to bring more revenue to the college. Had the VPs and faculty, deans, provosts, everybody involved not done what you've done, we would not be where we are. And so I am extremely elated and proud of that, that we're not in the position that some of the other sister institutions are in when it comes to enrollment, that we have met our budget goal and very close to our stretch. And so hats off to all of you.
Congratulations, that's wonderful, and the recruitment team and
Yeah.
everybody working, the advisors and, I mean, everything putting together. And I think that's one of the things we talked about as a board a couple years ago, is that each of these little pieces, as they get refined and start to work together, the fruits of those labors will come together to show
I think the
results like
working
this.
together is the critical part, and we talk a lot about wraparound services for our students. Really, we need wraparound systems where all the systems are working together and intertwined, and we're finally starting to get our groove on doing that. And so I'm real proud of that work, and it's been hard. Now, I can't say that it's been simple, especially moving into a virtual world, but our students are responding to technology. Our students are responding to the virtual nature of what we're doing, the group advising that we're doing online. They're responding to that. And so, thriving institutions, we have to, as Madeline would say, be the Uber of higher ed. We have to, help them move from one station to the next. And so to do that, we have to work together. But I'm extremely proud of that. I want to say to the college family, we need to keep pushing because this needs to continue. For us to really be up in enrollment annually, we have to be up in the spring and we have to be up in the summer. So we can't do what we're doing for fall and take our foot off the gas. So we have to keep moving. So let's keep going.
Ms. Bello.
Yeah, not to put, since we've been putting people on the spot this morning, Rita Farlow shared some numbers with me yesterday that relate to that grant for workforce, and I was going to ask if Michael would be willing to talk about that a little bit. We had like 675 people already or something?
Yeah, we're moving it.
Yeah, thank you, Member Bello. Absolutely, over 700 now applications for the Rapid Credentials program, and we're extremely ecstatic about the response. It just reaffirms that people in Pinellas County need it, and that's what that grant is targeted towards, people who have been unemployed or underemployed or laid off due to COVID. And the response has been phenomenal. We're going to help to get all of those students placed into short-term training programs and into the St. Pete College pipeline, which is what this is all about. This is an on-ramp, and we want that to lead into our credit certificate programs, our associate in science and our associate in art degree programs down the road. It's not just a stopgap. It's how kind of we look at it. We want to be SBC students for life. And for the students that we can't support via this scholarship, we've got our community partners, CareerSource, who has funding. They just got some money from the Pinellas County Economic Development Corp, $2 million for this same initiative to help people to get back on their feet. So the ones that we can't scholarship, we're going to connect to the resources that they need in order to get into these short-term programs.
So can you give us like enough to be dangerous talking points about how it works?
Absolutely. Anybody, the qualifications for the program, anybody who's been laid off, unemployed or underemployed. And how we're defining underemployed is the wage. If you're making under $12.53 per hour, which is what the local workforce development board cutoff is for a mid-level wage position, then you're eligible for the GEAR scholarship. The money came from the governor. He got his CARES Act allocation, and he set aside $25 million to distribute to the state college and the technical colleges within the state of Florida in order to help support this initiative. So it's CARES Act money coming out from the federal government through the governor through this set aside. And what we're using it for at St. Pete College is for our short-term programs. The target was 18 weeks or less. So we have a couple of credit certificate programs, our computer-aided design drafting program, along with our 911 telecommunications operator, our correctional officer clock hour PSAV programs, and a whole slew of non-credit short-term certificates that fall into that category. So what we're trying to do is, as individuals are directed to our website, and it's spc.edu//job training. And they go to that site and they can see all of the different programs that are available for scholarship. And IT, healthcare, manufacturing, insurance, and professional services are the primary sectors that we try to target, because those are the people that are still hiring right now, which is what we try to gear it towards. So individuals will be able to go onto that website, and if they're not sure what they want to do, we'll connect them to one of our advisors and have them kind of walk through the process that Dr. Davis and Dr. Vitito kind of discussed about helping students to figure out which track is right for them to get them onboarded. And then once they're onboarded, then what we want to do is provide support for them. So it's kind of become a multi-departmental effort. We are tapping into our student life and leadership team, our career services team, and we've all kind of come together to try to figure out a way to put a wraparound system around these students that once they're in, to make sure they're successful through to completion and then ultimately job placement. We want to close that loop, and one of the areas that we want to really try to beef up at the college is helping students to take that next step to employment. We have phenomenal numbers as it relates to what students' salaries are as a college as a whole after they graduate, and what we want to do is to try to ramp up our efforts to help these students to connect to employers that are hiring right now. So we're going to track those numbers. We're going to report back to the state so they can see what our placement rate was and how many students that we've placed over time with this rapid grant. But we're excited about it, and it's going to be a great service to the community.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
why wouldn't you be able to help certain people? What would preclude them from being a part of the grant?
Not much. It's pretty broad. and pretty
So
open.
what does the diversity look like in the grant? And are there ex-offenders that are allowed to come in under the grant, and how many of those do we have? I'm asking that question because the person that has been doing criminal justice reform is sitting right behind you. And I want to know what those numbers look like and how much more we need to be doing to help that population get to work.
Absolutely. Reentering citizens, hard to reach, hard to place population, but we definitely, there's nothing precluding them from participating. I don't have those numbers yet as far as how many have. We just launched it last week, but I'll get them to you, and we'll come back and
Please
share with the
find out how
board.
many folks are ex-offenders.
Absolutely.
And then the diversity amongst the grant and how many people are, and I'd really like to know North versus South County, meaning the dividing line being Almerton, how many people are applying, just because I'm guessing that probably less people north of Almerton are looking for work more than folks south of Almerton.
Yes, sir. We'll disaggregate that data and get it back to you.
Please.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We can take like a 6-minute break and then come back about a couple minutes before 10 to have our, it'll be very brief, just about a 15-minute, 20-minute strategic planning update, okay? Thank you.
Ms. Pumariega is on the line. Rebecca, I might need you up here because I don't know how this is rigged. Madeline, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us this morning and for all the work you've done in the past 6 weeks. This is Katie Cole, so we appreciate you being here. And without further ado, we'll just turn it over to you, Madeline.
Thank you, Chair Cole. Good morning, trustees, President Williams, and the leadership team at SPC.
Good morning.
So we've embarked on really launching the development of the 2021 to 2024 strategic plan. It started, as you know, with the board survey that really gave us a good confirmation that the mission and the vision of the college still align to how you envision the college and where the college needs to be in the next, 3 to 5 years out. You provided great clarity, and I shared that with the leadership team and President Williams when we had a full-day retreat this past week about what the strategic plan needed to do. And it needed to set the strategic direction for the college, really identify growth opportunities, important to align the fiscal resources to strategic priorities, because your investment should reflect your values and be recognized as a premier college in the country. And that was consistent with how all of you answered the key components of accountability, as well as the areas that you felt laid the foundation for the college to be successful and where the college should be recognized as a national leader. In terms of opportunities, the expansion of academic programs, and that would be part of a strategic enrollment management plan that would be developed as part of the strategic plan, to be a national brand leader, and that continues to build on the type of recognition like an Aspen institution. A workforce leader, building on already, whether it's the rapid response programs you just developed in response to COVID, and building on that success. Something that weaves through all of your comments were partnerships. The real desire to be that central hub where not only the community looks towards St. Petersburg College to be the leader, but that government leaders also look towards it, both state and national. Important to those opportunities that really have to be driven is the value of student success. You said clearly in a lot of your responses that students will find the value of the college when they see their success, and when they see their success beyond SPC, whether it's transferring to a university or whether it's going right into the workforce. And I think a common thread that was weaved with all of your answers also came out as the opportunity about affordable education and tied to economic mobility. The risks, which were really what threatened St. Pete College, the human capital. And that is true for all institutions. When you think about the greatest asset that the college has is its people. The why are the students. The how are really the team that you assemble to deploy and implement and execute on that plan and on the strategy of student success. The student experience. And I think in this COVID environment and post-COVID, you are so right to list that as a risk. We have to define what that student experience is and then work on continuing to enhance that student experience. The financial sustainability of the institution should be top and center of every trustee as we look towards a COVID and post-COVID environment. And so that's why aligning the budget to these strategic priorities is so important. Instructional modalities really speaks to what I also saw threaded through the answers, to ensure that we keep our competitive edge. Do we have all of the technology, all of the professional development to deploy instructional modalities that meet the needs of students and meets the needs of community? That is what should drive the instructional modality. That the strategic alignment at all levels, and that again I think is important, and that's why we started with the board, to understand your vision, set the priorities. In the meeting on Friday with President Williams and her cabinet, we had a long discussion about making sure that there was alignment to all of these strategic priorities, from, quite frankly, the board all the way to the last employee hired needs to know the priorities and have, in a sense, buy in to that continued vision of the board and of the president. So that's important, and I think we'll address that as we emerge in some of the high impact strategies. And then the ability to pivot and respond to emerging trends and external forces, that is incredibly important during this environment. So when I asked you about academic excellence, there was great agreement on why this pillar is still very important, as it should be. It sits at the center of what we do in higher education and what we do in our institutions and what happens at SPC. And so you clearly define that you want to see a priority around ensuring that students have a clear pathway from start to finish at SPC. And that really would include those early connections all the way through post-graduation into how they do at our transfer universities and within the careers that they select. The second theme that emerged under academic excellence was to ensure seamless access, holistic support, and successful completion and equitable outcomes for students. This really speaks to the lens of equity, which I know is a priority for all of you as it is for the president. But it also talks about how do we create a real model in how we serve students that makes sure that we identify where are their barriers to that seamless entryway into the college. How do we identify the support that students need, the wraparound services, if you will, that lead to student completion? And then how do we personalize that to make sure that every student is given the optimal learning environment to be successful? That is how you achieve equity. The focus of teaching and learning, that's paramount to every institution. It is one of the 5 characteristics that emerge from Aspen, from institutions that have been selected as the top community college in the country, and that is the focus on teaching and learning. How do we know students learn, and how do we continue to build upon high impact pedagogy that leads to that student success, and how we focus on the human capital in regards to professional development. Program excellence emerged, being recognized that we have the best program and we have the best graduates. It was mentioned a couple of times how ECHRD is recognized in the community for communication, for English writers, and that really speaks to program excellence. So developing a high impact strategy that really highlights program excellence, which will then lead to being nationally recognized leader in workforce innovation and excellence. Those two get tied. If you're recognized for program excellence, hand in hand comes being a recognized leader, particularly in workforce innovation and excellence.
Got it.
In the area, and I'll pause there, see if there's any questions, and then I'll move to economic mobility. So Madam Chair, are there any questions that you would like me to address at this time?
I am seeing none at this time, so we can move forward to economic mobility. Thank you.
Perfect. So in economic mobility, the thread that really kind of themed in there was this clear pathway for student success beyond completion. The truth is, that we know that students can be successful, not only at what happens at SPC, but beyond that. How well are they doing in the jobs? How well are they doing when they head over to USF or to any one of our universities? That defines economic mobility, is taking a student and providing them a high quality educational experience that connects them to success beyond the college, which aligns them to have prosperity, be able to own a home, be able to have the community have jobs and the talents needed to fill those jobs. Collaborate with business and industry to ensure that programs align to workforce needs and serve as a solid foundation for success. That was also a theme, making sure that we develop a strategy on how all of our academic and workforce programs are aligned to business and industry, and that we are also making sure that students are gaining those very important employability skills that do give them the solid foundation for success. Ensure that SPC is recognized as a partner of choice for workforce readiness. So positioning the college and developing a strategy that ensures that beyond the advisory boards that each of the workforce programs and our AS programs have, how do we develop or identify a strategy that brings business leaders regularly together to understand the value of SPC and the important partner that SPC is to them and their economic viability of their own business, and turning to SPC for the first choice in terms of responding to their needs as business leaders. Contribute to the overall economic growth and increased employment opportunities in the region. I think that one of the things that we talked with President Williams and the leadership team is even beginning to identify the economic impact that SPC has in the community, and then how do we leverage that impact to increase employment opportunities in the area. So again, developing a strategy that talks about the economic impact of the college, as well as tying that to the economic impact we have by producing the talent that leads to employment opportunities within the region. And then very important that we heard from everyone in this area, this idea of making sure that we're aligned to high wage and high skilled jobs. That we're not only producing graduates that may be transferring to a university, but that we are also producing graduates that compete and earn a livable wage, a high wage, and high skilled jobs in the region. And that really aligns to the Tampa Bay Partnership Regional Talent Study as well, in what the region will need to be competitive and continue to have its competitive edge. And SPC plays a critical role, so developing a high impact strategy around that. Community engagement, leverage community relationships to strengthen the SPC brand and build partnerships. And so in that area, developing a priority and a strategy that accompanies really elevating the brand of the college by leveraging it to build on partnerships. You know, developing a potential asset map to see where there's opportunities for leveraging those community partnerships or building new partnerships, and then using the expertise and connections of the board to help make those inroads. Engaging students in the community, you have a long history of doing that with civic engagement and through service learning. How can we do more of that and develop a strategic priority around internships and work-based learning opportunities for students, setting a bold vision that every student that graduates from SPC would have some type of opportunity for work-based learning, whether that's virtual in this COVID environment or whether it's through an internship or job shadowing. And then back to a theme that we saw in the very beginning, serve as a focal point for business, social, economic, government, and community institutions. Be that hub as well. In the area of employees' experience and engagement, making sure that we address the potential risk that's listed, which is human capital, and developing a strategy to hire and retain an excellent workforce, and ensure that the college serves as a model, not only for the community, but really across the state and the nation, because that then supports your desire and your vision to see the college serve as a focal point for business, social, economic, government, and community institutions. And then this speaks to one of the risks that you also mentioned, not having strategic directional alignment at all levels. This speaks to developing a strategy that ensures and encourages alignment of strategic vision and priorities. And that can be done through the development of the strategic priorities, identifying high impact strategies, and then tying that to every division at the college to make sure they have alignment, and then tying that to performance goals. And that's the way that you can achieve getting that alignment of strategic vision and priorities and accountability. And then on the financial vitality, important of, if you set the strategic priorities, making sure that the budget aligns to those strategic priorities. You all mentioned your focus on affordability, making sure that we stay affordable as a college. So that speaks to how do you continue to be more efficient, and how do you build efficiencies on that path for affordability. Looking at alternative budget streams, are there opportunities to generate revenue from other partnerships that we haven't considered? So maybe developing a priority and a strategy around that. And tied to financial vitality is strategic enrollment and growth, and that emerged also as a theme. I'll pause there before I go to the next section of how you envision your board's contributions to the implementation. Madam Chair, I'll ask you if there's any questions or if I can address any areas.
Sure. Are there any questions from the trustees? These came from both our individual responses that we provided, as well as the session that we had last month. So I think we're ready to move on.
Perfect. And I just want to say, yes, they came from all those beautiful little cards. And putting them together. So we at least modernized ourselves when we went to index cards instead of Post-its. We did go old style with the team on Friday and went back to Post-its. And I will share that the team did look at all of these priorities, and we started to look at all of the activities that the college is doing to support these priorities, and started to shift the thinking of moving from activities to moving to strategy. And the way that we do that, and the process that we do that is identifying, are those activities scalable? Are they measurable? What are the outcomes? And how have they supported the key performance indicators that could lead to the big goals for the college? And so your responses in terms of board contributions, you believe that your role is to set the vision and help facilitate opportunities. You would like to see all three pillars together and achieving in the community, in which the community and the college receive national recognition. And I think that's important, that the pillars are not silos, right, but that the pillars come together to execute on the vision that you're setting for the college, which sets the vision and priorities and consistently measures results, and being the go-to for government. The way that you believe you should be, your role in the implementation is to review measurable data. The implementation of the strategic plan is the president's job. I agree with you on that. The introduction to high impact partners, and then accountability, holding the administration accountable for the mission and the vision, and establishing the strategic priorities that accomplish the vision that you set out, which basically is covered in academic excellence, economic mobility, community engagement, employee experience, and financial vitality. And so the next steps We had, as I mentioned, on Friday, a full day with President Williams and the cabinet. We began to unpack these priorities that you have set, the vision you have set for the college, and start to really refine what are the high impact strategies that can lead to those successful outcomes. Being recognized as a national leader in workforce and excellence, being responsive to the community, being recognized as really the hub, the focal point for the community, focusing on student success, closing those equity gaps, and making sure that students are successful, not just at the college and have a successful experience, but most importantly, beyond the college, which will contribute to that national and state and community recognition as a partner of choice. And that's where we are right now. We are looking to prioritize, align all of the activities that are underway at the college and really start to think which ones are simply activities and which are promising practices that can inform high impact strategies that we will present to you, later this month, or I think by October, President Williams would like in the timeline that she's provided to me.
Wonderful. That was going to be my follow-up question, was the next step. So October, we'll probably come back and have some specific priorities?
I think in October we'll come back with specifics if we can get Madeline with the faculty, staff, and students, depending on scheduling. Our goal was to make sure by November the board had some information. And in December we have the workshop, and I don't know if we'll need the workshop if we're doing it in November. So we'll see how that works. November's board is packed. We have Capital City coming, and we also have the group helping us with fundraising. So it may still end up being the December board that we bring it. But we're going to try to bring it as soon as we can get her in the meetings with everybody else.
Mr. Gibbons?
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask if there was anything that seemed
I just would like to add, I think this is a good process. I think we will still need December as a retreat, and I'll tell you why. Madeline said something very specific about having measurable goals. Can things be measured? Mm-hmm. And the only way that I see this process working at the end is that we have, one, a vision that we need to talk about as a board, or what we expect, and as a college. And then two, every 6 months you need to check and see if you're, just like you do with your budget, every month you check to see where you are on track with those things. And it needs to be a 5-year plan, just like we're talking about. But we also, the only way that you achieve success in business and in other ventures like this is that you have to have a checkup point. Mm-hmm. What have you accomplished over these things towards the ultimate goals, right? Thank you. And so as a board, I'd like to have a checkup, whether it's 6 months, 9 months. I think a year is kind of far because you can't change after you get to a year. I mean, you're too far down the pike for that particular year. So I'd really like to see us as a board have that December meeting to go over what those goals are, because we may see it a little bit differently than the faculty in terms of, and other folks, even administration, in terms of the long-term goals, but also how do we get there and how do we check them? What's measurable and what's not?
You're right on point, Trustee Gibbons. And the whole premise behind starting with the board to get your vision is to create that. We were actually coming back quarterly. So with the measurable information that we all agree on, I think that December's workshop will be different than the workshops we've had, because we're creating what we would normally just hand to the board. And that was why Madeline said, no, I want to start with the board. I want to hear what the board wants to do. She synthesized that, and that's what we're going to use. When we come back in December, we'll be bringing back the work that you guys have done with those goals for you to say, hey, Tanja, I think we should try this or we should do that. But we'll be bringing that back. But we will be bringing, the presentations will be quarterly instead of 6 or 9 months, because I think quarterly will be easier for us to address issues than, like you said, wait till the end. So when I met with Madeline, we talked about a quarterly reporting.
And I also want to say, so in the survey, the board said, how would you like to receive strategic updates, quarterly reports, as well as a dashboard? So our next step is develop strategic priorities, identify high impact strategies, identify key performance indicators that give us the indication of whether those high impact strategies are effective, and then alignment. Make sure that we have a plan to align our committees, align all the work that we're doing to those strategic priorities and the high impact strategies. And those will be accompanied with key performance indicators and metrics. Some of the key performance indicators are going to be at the departmental level because they're the ones that drive those KPIs that are important to achieve those overarching goals. If you remember in the presentation, the dashboard that I gave you all, and why I told you the dashboard was important is because you don't want to get buried in the data. You want to understand in terms of looking at a dashboard. The dashboard gives you that picture that the board needs to have, which is, okay, don't tell me if we're up and down in just enrollment. Tell me what credit hours we're generating. If we are generating this credit hours, does this align to the budget that we've approved? Looking at enrollment density starts to tell you about efficiency. When you are having increases in part-time students versus full-time students, shifting that in terms of efficiency. Looking at headcount by enrollment in terms of ethnicity. Are you serving the community? Does your student body reflect the community that you serve? And do your employees reflect that? That really speaks about looking at everything through the lens of equity. Your retention rate lets you know whether you're on target to increase that completion rate. And then disaggregating the course success data. So how well are students doing in courses, and how does that look like in terms of our all students, Black, Hispanic, white students, and how is that a leading indicator for retention, and retention is a leading indicator for completion. And so that's what we'll do is when we present to you, we'll also present to you some metrics that could be designed as the dashboard for the board, so that you can look at a dashboard and see it all in a glance. And then we'll also have a financial dashboard as well to make sure that on the financial viability of the college, there's a dashboard for you to take a look at as well.
Right.
One thing I don't want to lose is the conclusion of our current 3-year plan and the success or lack thereof we've had with those goals and priorities. And so at this point, it's easy to get excited about the next 3 years. But to Mr. Gibbons' point, I think it's important to have that snapshot of where we've come, because we've had some great successes.
Yes.
We've also had a few misses.
Yep.
And I think it would help the board understand what needs to be our priorities that are the high impact priorities moving forward for the next 3 years, if we know what has the result of the past 3 years has been.
And how we missed.
Right.
That will give us.
If
good
we have
data.
the misses
If
where.
we have misses, how we missed. I think in the past we've just said, oh, we didn't make this, right? Or we were like at the 5-yard line. Well, what stopped us at the 5-yard line?
Right.
Like, how do we fix that?
Was it people? Was it money? Was it time? Was
exactly.
it,
Because we would go one time a year and get something in our hands, and here's what the college felt was a priority, right? We're taking it from the staff. We had no input, and that's what we're here for. Like, if you got stuck at the 5-yard line, what if it was people or time or marketing, right? Bridget would notice that immediately, or you would notice it if we were doing something related to legally, we did something that we could have done differently. So I think to get those measurable goals.
I do want to add to the board, so you know, that was very much most of the meeting with the cabinet was looking at the data. So when you see the strategic priorities and the high impact strategies, the new ones, they are actually informed by the data from this last 3 years. So I'm sure President Williams is smiling, and anybody that was in the meeting, in the cabinet, in the audience, how we really broke down the data. We said, so this was a priority you had. How did you do? Okay, what are the activities and what didn't work well, and how does that inform the high impact strategies? That's the phase we're in right now, is actually dissecting the data and building on success and learning from where those metrics don't reflect the hard work that's happening at the college. There's no shortage of hard work at the college. The question is that hard work reflecting itself in the data? And if it's not, do we need to change our strategic direction so we can see that hard work leveraged into the payoff of successful data?
Thank you. And just because I say this to Dr. Williams privately all the time and to Ms. Hunt when we're on the phone, but one of my enthusiastic support of this process is the budget alignment piece. I think we spend a lot of time talking about some strategies and priorities, but then we either don't put the money to it, or we spend a lot of money on things that are not strategic priorities. And so I'm looking forward to your recommendations on how we can actually see the budget alignment. And to my colleagues, I think that will force us to make some tough decisions when it comes to budget. And I will pose that as a challenge that we'll see next spring, that, if we're really going to put our money where our mouth is and want to commit to these strategic priorities, it will involve moving money to places that it perhaps wasn't spent before and taking money away from places that it had been spent. And that's just the practical reality of it. We've talked around that piece. We've done better with our financial dashboard and seeing kind of how those things fit together, but we certainly haven't had that very specific and intentional conversation that I anticipate and I think we need to have this spring when we're doing the budget. So I just wanted to verbalize that, because when we're finalizing these strategic priorities in our strategic plan in December for the next 3 years, my expectation, and I think Dr. Williams' expectation, is that the budget that we then adopt in the spring is going to specifically reflect those priorities.
Right.
So anything else from anyone to add? Ms. Pumariega, I never say your last name correctly.
Pumariega.
It's okay. Madeline is
I
good.
apologize. Thank you so much for joining us this morning and for all the time that you're spending with our team and with the board on this process. It's definitely invaluable. So we appreciate it, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
We'll see you soon, Madeline. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
You too.
You too.
Bye for now.
All right, bye-bye.
Is there any other business to come before the board before we adjourn? With that, we will adjourn. Thank you all.
All right. Thank you. So make it.